Have you ever noticed that the one thing you desperately try to avoid is exactly what ends up destroying your peace? The relationship you were terrified of losing, you suffocated until it ended. The embarrassment you dreaded in a meeting, you stumbled into the moment you stood up to speak. The failure you obsessed over avoiding, became the exact failure you created. This is not coincidence. There is a dark psychological paradox that almost guarantees your biggest fears will find you. And today, you're going to understand exactly why it happens, and more importantly, how to break free from its grip. Let's start with something the ancient Stoics understood 2,000 years ago, but modern psychology only recently proved. It's called the law of reversed effort. The harder you try to force a specific outcome, the more you guarantee its opposite. Aldous Huxley coined the term, but the principle is ancient. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "It is not death that a man should fear, but rather he should fear never beginning to live." Notice what he's saying. The real danger was never the thing itself. The real danger was letting the fear of it dictate your entire existence. In 1987, psychologist Daniel Wegner conducted a now-famous experiment at Trinity University. He told participants one simple thing: do not think about a white bear. That's it. Just don't think about it. What happened? Every single participant thought about white bears more than the control group who were given no instruction at all. Wegner called this ironic process theory. The very act of trying to suppress a thought makes that thought dominant in your mind. Now apply this to your deepest fears. When you tell yourself, "I must not fail," your brain hears one word louder than all the rest. Fail. And it begins to orient your entire psychology around that word. Think about it. The insomniac who tells themselves, "I must fall asleep," is the one who lies awake until 3 in the morning. The public speaker who whispers, "Don't stutter," is the one whose voice cracks at the podium. The person who says, "I will not be like my father," often wakes up one day realizing they have become exactly like him. The effort to avoid becomes the engine of creation. And this is where it gets interesting. Because this isn't just about thoughts. It goes much, much deeper than that. Here's what most people don't understand. Your anxiety doesn't just stay in your head. It leaks into everything you do. Every unspoken fear alters your microbehaviors in ways you cannot consciously detect. And those microbehaviors are what create the very outcome you dread. Psychologists call this a self-fulfilling prophecy. The term was coined by sociologist Robert K. Merton in 1948. He defined it as a false definition of the situation evoking a new behavior which makes the originally false conception come true. Let me give you a real example. You enter a new relationship. Deep down, you carry a wound from the past. You believe, whether you admit it or not, that eventually, people leave. So what do? You test them. You pull away to see if they'll chase you. You become suspicious when they're quiet. You demand reassurance, then resent them for not giving it freely. Your partner, who had no intention of leaving, now feels suffocated. Controlled. Exhausted. And one day, they leave. And you whisper to yourself, "I knew it." But here's the brutal truth. They didn't leave because people always leave. They left because your fear of abandonment wrote the entire script of the relationship. You directed the very movie you were terrified of watching. Seneca saw this with terrifying clarity nearly 2,000 years ago. He wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." But the Stoics understood something even darker. We don't just suffer imaginary pain. We use that imaginary pain to build real prisons. Our unspoken anxieties become architects, designing the exact life we were trying to escape. Now we arrive at something most people are not ready to hear. This is the concept of the shadow self, introduced by the Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung. Jung believed that every person carries within them a shadow, a part of themselves they refuse to acknowledge. It's everything you've told yourself you are not. Everything you've repressed. Every trait, every desire, every fear you've pushed into the basement of your psyche and locked the door. But here's what Jung discovered. What you repress doesn't disappear. It grows stronger. He wrote, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Read that again. You will call it fate. The person who represses their anger doesn't become peaceful. They become passive-aggressive, leaking hostility in every sarcastic comment, every cold silence. The person who denies their need for validation doesn't become humble. They become obsessively self-reliant, pushing away anyone who tries to help, then wondering why they feel so alone. Your shadow doesn't sit quietly in the dark. It reaches up through the floorboards and moves your hands for you. Every aversion you refuse to face becomes a puppeteer. And the cruelest irony is this: the things you are most disgusted by in other people, the traits that trigger you, that make your blood boil, those are almost always projections of the parts of yourself you refuse to see. Your strongest emotional reactions are not about them. They are a mirror. And the reflection terrifies you because you recognize it. Now here is the twist you didn't see coming. The ancient Stoics didn't just identify this problem. They built a weapon against it. And it's the exact opposite of what modern self-help tells you to do. Today, you're told to visualize success. Picture your ideal life. Manifest your dreams. The Stoics did the opposite. They practiced something called premeditatio malorum. The premeditation of evils. Every morning, Seneca would sit in silence and deliberately imagine the worst things that could happen to him that day. Exile. Poverty. The death of someone he loved. His own death. Not to torture himself, but to strip these fears of their power. He wrote, "The man who has anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their power when they arrive." Think about how radical this is. Instead of running from the thing you fear, you sit down, look it directly in the eye, and say, "I see you. And if you come for me, I will still be standing." This isn't pessimism. This is the deepest form of courage that exists. Marcus Aurelius practiced this every single day as Emperor of Rome. In his private journal, never intended for publication, he wrote, "Begin each day by telling yourself, today I shall meet with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness." He wasn't being negative. He was inoculating himself. He was removing the element of surprise, which is where fear draws most of its power. Because the things you expect cannot ambush you. And the things that cannot ambush you cannot control you. And this brings us to the most powerful point. The one that changes everything. There is a fundamental psychological shift that separates people who are enslaved by their fears from people who walk freely through life. And it comes down to one decision. The decision to stop fleeing and start accepting. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher who was born into slavery, who had his leg broken by his own master, said something that echoes through the centuries: "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." But let's go deeper than the surface of that quote. Epictetus wasn't just talking about reacting calmly. He was talking about a complete restructuring of your relationship with fear. When you flee from something, you give it authority over your direction. Your fear chooses your path. Your fear decides what jobs you apply for. Your fear selects your relationships. Your fear determines how small you are willing to live. But when you turn around and face the thing, something extraordinary happens. Psychologist Stephen Hayes, the founder of acceptance and commitment therapy, spent decades studying this. His research showed that the willingness to experience negative thoughts and emotions, not to fix them, not to fight them, but simply to allow them to exist, dramatically reduced their control over behavior. Participants who practiced acceptance showed lower anxiety, fewer avoidance behaviors, and greater psychological flexibility than those who tried to suppress or eliminate their fears. In other words, the moment you stop running is the moment the monster behind you begins to shrink. So let's connect everything. Let's see the bigger picture. You carry within you a set of fears. Some were given to you in childhood. Some were born from experience. Some you cannot even name. And for most of your life, you have organized your entire existence around avoiding them. But avoidance is not neutrality. Avoidance is active engagement. Every time you run from something, you are spending energy on it. You are thinking about it. You are shaping your decisions around it. You are, in the most literal sense, building your life around the thing you claim to want no part of. Daniel Wegner's white bears haunt you because you told them to leave. Your self-fulfilling prophecies manifest because your micro-behaviors serve your fears before they serve your intentions. Your shadow self, as Jung warned, directs your life from beneath the surface because you refuse to look at it. And all the while, you call it bad luck. You call it fate. You say the world is unfair. But the ancient Stoics knew the truth. Seneca put it simply, we are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more in imagination than in reality. The antidote is not positive thinking. It is not pretending your fears don't exist. The antidote is what the Stoics called amor fati. A love of fate. A complete acceptance of everything that might come. Not because the outcomes are good, but because your freedom depends on releasing the need to control them. When you practice premeditatio malorum, when you sit with your worst-case scenario each morning, something paradoxical happens. The scenario loses its teeth. You realize that even in the worst case, there is still a version of you that endures. That adapts. That finds meaning. And once you truly internalize that, the fear has nowhere left to hide. So here is what you do, starting tonight. Before you sleep, ask yourself one question. What am I most afraid of right now? Don't flinch. Don't rationalize. Don't push it away. Name it. Look at it. Then ask, what would I do if this actually happened? You will find that you have an answer. You always had an answer. The fear was never about the outcome. The fear was about the uncertainty. And uncertainty dissolves the moment you stop running from it and start planning through it. This is not a technique. This is a way of living. This is what Epictetus meant when he said, make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens. You have spent your whole life running from shadows. And in running, you gave those shadows legs. You gave them direction. You gave them your future. But today, you learned something the ancient Stoics paid for with lifetimes of suffering and reflection. You do not overcome fear by avoiding it. You overcome fear by removing its disguise and realizing it was never bigger than you. Remember, the thing you refuse to look at is the thing that controls you. And the moment you turn and face it, you are already free.